Hey, and welcome to the Go the Distance podcast series. My name is Sadie, and you can find my social media links at milehighradio.com/go-the-distance. I want to give a big shout out to Lynn Burnett and Mile High Radio for making all of this possible. And please check out my previous episodes at shows.pippa.io/go-the-distance. And today's episode is going to be about self-care. So the question I have for you today is, how do you do self-care and how do you take care of yourself? So the reason I want to talk about this is because self-care is so important in our fast-paced world. We can overwhelm ourselves with work because no matter how much we get done, there's always something else to do. And how do you find the balance and avoid burnout? So those are my questions for you for this episode. Usually I have been asking them at the end, but today for this episode I asked them at the beginning. So join my Facebook group at www.facebook.com/groups/go-the-distance-podcasts and drop a line and let me know how you take care of yourself and what you do to keep yourself feeling mentally and emotionally and also physically healthy. So self-care is something that's easily kind of pushed off to the side because we have so many different things going on all the time. I find because of the advances in technology, we have so much available to us that it's easy to just try to spread ourselves out into all of these different things, and we end up spreading ourselves thin and not being able to kind of manage all of those things as well as keep ourselves feeling healthy and happy still. So when you really stop and take a moment for yourself to just be aware of your needs and your wants, it's much easier to be able to take care of yourself and to keep yourself aware of when you do need that break and that time to just chill out, and other people around you will start to notice that your mood changes. And I know for myself, like when I started going to the gym, that was when I really truly started taking care of myself. Like I'd always kind of done scrapbooking or card making or little projects like that, or little crafts and stuff like that. And that was kind of what I considered my self-care. And for a time I would read a book, and that was kind of how I'd relax and take a load off. But when I started going to the gym, I started to realize that not only is your mental health important to take care of, it's also important to actually take care of your physical health, because I gained so much energy and so much I guess just, I was going to say stamina, but like, I was able to wake up and feel good in the morning. It wasn't like a drag to get out of bed and a drag to get up and go and do things, because just using that energy forces your body to kind of replenish your energy. And when you don't really do anything, like as a university student, when I was in university, I was just sitting all the time, doing homework, sitting in class, sitting all the time. And I wasn't really using a lot of energy, and I wasn't really, getting myself tired physically because all I was doing was sitting. And when I started going to the gym, I started to really re-energize, because your energy drops low because you've physically exerted yourself, and then you have to kind of replenish that. And it's refreshing every day when you have the highs and the lows through exercise. And I noticed that another big thing that improved was my mental health. I found that I was thinking more clearly, and I was more emotionally stable and more level, because I was getting, again, those highs and those lows from physical activity, as opposed to putting myself through like a mental ringer kind of thing. Like it really makes a big difference when you stop and take care of yourself. So, and maybe going to the gym's not your thing. Some other things that I've done in the past for self-care is going for hikes, going for walks into different places. When I used to live in Toronto, I would go downtown and kind of walk down random streets and check out shops and see what they had to offer, and just do like basic window shopping, and not really, it wasn't really like for a purpose other than just to get out and about and to kind of see what was there. And I found that was really enjoyable because it exposed me to the city. I kind of got to know my way around and got to know like some of the side streets and the back streets. Out here, I live in BC now. I've gone for hikes up. There's a mountain that's near the city that I live in, and we one time went all the way to the top, and that was a really great experience for me. That was the first time I ever really did such a long hike. As a teenager, I would go to summer camp and sort of got a little bit of a taste for being out in the woods and hiking and that kind of thing, but it was nothing to the extent of climbing that Mount Benson. So it's really important to find something that works for you, because everybody's different. Everyone has different interests and abilities and desires, and it's important to find something for yourself that helps you meet your wishes and desires and wants for yourself. Because if you're not able to meet those desires and those wishes, you'll be constantly seeking out something. Maybe you won't notice it or know that that's what you're doing, but for me, it's like a part of me is missing if I'm not doing some sort of self-care. It's so easy to get burnt out in our society now because, like I said, there's so much to do and so little time, right? You always hear that, but it's true. And if you don't stop and take time for yourself and make sure that you're cared for the way that you need to be, then that's how people get burnt out and frustrated. And I could see how that could be how addictions start, because when you're not taking care of yourself in a positive way, it's easy to lean on drugs and alcohol to kind of numb yourself from all of the overexertion or the overwhelmed feelings that you're having. And if you're not aware of your needs and you just ignore them, then it's not healthy and it's not productive for yourself, because you end up becoming less productive if you're not taking care of yourself, because you're not going to be performing at the best that you possibly can. So it's so important to just like refresh yourself, take that time out, and just really relax and get into something. I've talked about this on previous episodes, but it's a whole different thing when you fully immerse yourself into an activity and fully engage yourself into that activity. If you kind of do something and you're distracted by outside influences, so like if you're working on something but you're also watching your kids, or you're also cooking dinner or whatever it might be, then you're not going to be as involved into it, and it's not quite the same sense of satisfaction when you really just lose sense of time and get zoned in on that activity that you're doing. I can recall a time where I was reading a book and, the pages were turning and I wasn't even aware of the fact that so much time had passed. I looked at the clock and it was like 2 a.m. and I was at school the next day and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm like almost finished the book and I didn't even realize like how many pages I had turned. Or working on like a little project or something, there's been times where I just get so into it that you sort of lose that sense of time and you don't even think to look at the clock, and all of a sudden you've done like 5 pages of your art and it's 3 or 4 or 5 hours has passed and you don't even know necessarily where the time went. Well, you know where it went, into the activity that you're doing, but it's a satisfying feeling to find that for yourself. And like I said, there's so many different ways you can do self-care. You could do art, reading books, music, going for hikes, going to the gym, spending time with friends, cooking, so many different things. And the other part too is to be aware of your friends and family. Make sure that they're taking care of themselves. It's so easy to get caught up that it's nice to have a reminder from the ones that you love to help you keep on track and make sure that you're still doing those things for yourself. And if someone reaches out and says, hey, I noticed you've been pretty stressed lately, do you want to go do this thing together? It makes it easier for that person to say yes, because it's an invitation from somebody, and it's not just like, oh, well, I have all these responsibilities on myself, so I can't take the time to plan to do something for myself right now. But if someone else kind of initiates it, it makes it so much easier. Sometimes we get overwhelmed with the amount of work that we have. And like I was saying, no matter how much we do or get done, there's always that much or more to do still. And I found that being a teacher, it's easy to spend a lot of my own personal time working on things for my classroom because they're things that I want and that I desire. But if I allow myself, I could, spend all my time doing those things. And in doing that, it's easy to become ignorant of my own needs and my own desires. And that's not what I want for myself. So I've been working really hard to make sure I take time, well, first of all, to do my podcasts, and second of all, to just do something I enjoy, which lately I've been picking up my guitar and practicing. So I might not always do the same thing for self-care, but I'm always doing something. I'm one of these people who gets bored really easily, so I tend to be doing something different, challenging myself in a new way all the time instead of doing the same thing over and over and over again. I find that very repetitive, and I guess it's just, for me, it's easier to keep myself motivated and to keep myself interested in something if it's something new, as opposed to the same thing all the time. A big part of it is finding a balance, because if you do too much self-care, then you avoid your responsibilities. So if I just, didn't do my work because I was taking care of myself and really focused on that, then my work would suffer, and you could lose your job, or you could not be as successful at work as you think you should be, or as your boss expects you to be, and it can create tension in the workplace. So part of self-care is also making sure that you're balancing everything and that you're meeting your expectations and your responsibilities that you have, because no matter what, we always have responsibilities. We all have to contribute to life and to our own future and our own success. And if we focus too much on giving to the relaxation side of ourselves, then the work side of ourselves starts to suffer. And it's important to really find that balance, that place of everything kind of working together in your life to help you be successful in the best way possible. And I think a big part of that is being true to yourself and being honest with yourself about what you want to do and how you want to do it and when you want to do it. Because if you're honest with yourself, it feels better once you actually do it, as opposed to just forcing yourself to do something over and over again that you don't actually want to do or that you're not actually interested in. And so I encourage all of you to really take time to reflect and to think about what you want to do and how you want to do it. And if that changes in 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, so be it. Let it go with the flow of your life. Maybe you'll meet someone new and they'll spark an interest in something a little bit different than what you're used to, and that's okay too. It's so easy to get stuck in our own ways that repetitive pattern kind of happens because, that's what I've always done, right? Like, I don't know, I just hear, like, no offense, but like a lot of older people, they wake up at the exact same time every day. They eat the exact same thing for breakfast. They go to work on the exact same path. They go to the grocery store on the same day every week. All of these very repetitive things. And for me, I find that to be, some people, for them, that's great. But for me, that's too repetitive and too similar. I like to switch it up and do different things and keep it interesting for myself. So there's always a little bit of like unexpectedness in what I'm doing. So things aren't always like predictable and the same. And yeah. Another big part of self-care is just making sure that you're eating healthily. It's another thing that's really easy to do nowadays is it's so easy to just go out and get fast food and not really think about how it's affecting your body. But when you think about your body as a car, if you go out and you get bad gas, you get really bad mileage. And if you go out and you get really good high quality gas, your car runs well, the tank of fuel lasts longer. And it's the same thing with your body. If you put in unhealthy foods, you're not going to feel great, you're not going to have energy, things are going to seem more frustrating and more work. And if you eat healthily, then it's a lot easier for yourself because you have good quality energy for your body to use that lasts all day, as opposed to these highly processed foods that cause our blood sugar to spike and then crash. The thing about processed foods is that our body is supposed to be the factory. Our body is supposed to be the part that breaks down those foods. But when you process foods and they're already broken down into the type of cell that your body needs, your body doesn't have to do any work for it, and it becomes quite lazy. And part of having a healthy diet is allowing your body to actually work for the food as opposed to just being given instant energy. A lot of the cells, so I'm not a doctor, and this is just what I heard from somebody who's studying medicine, not medicine, like the body. I guess your stomach goes through a chemical process of turning things from cellulose into a variety of different things, and it's kind of like a tier, like a ladder. It like starts off as cellulose, and then your body turns it into different things. In the end process, it becomes glucose. And glucose is what your brain uses for energy. So when we eat all these foods that have glucose already in it, our bodies just have instant access to glucose, and it's like instant energy. As soon as it hits your stomach, those cells that pick up glucose can just come right in and start using that energy, as opposed to having to actually digest the food and actually go through that process. And that makes sense to me. So when I was learning about diet, that really resonated with me, because it just makes sense. I mean, it's so easy to just get caught up in everything that is fast and instant, and kind of, that instant gratification sort of theme that seems to be coming up now is, I want it now, I need it now. If I don't get it now, I'm going to be really upset. And we have to challenge ourselves to have patience and to wait for things and to work for things, because if you just get what you want when you want it, there's no satisfaction in that. It doesn't feel good to get those things. When you work for something, you're proud of it, and you're able to say, like, yeah, I worked for this, I did it. But when someone just hands it to you on a silver platter, it's nice, but it doesn't feel as good. It doesn't feel as rewarding, because when you actually go through the motions and the hard work, you know what it takes. So when you see it in other people, you can appreciate it a lot more, because you know what they went through to get there, because you've done similar things in your life. So rather than making things always easy for yourself, it is good to challenge yourself, to push yourself through those difficult things. I guess I've kind of gone off on a tangent from self-care, but it's all kind of ties together. I mean, it's important to make sure that you're meeting your needs in all areas of your life, not just one way or the other. So again, my questions for you this week are, how are you doing self-care? What do you do for yourself to make sure that you don't feel burnt out or exhausted or get caught up in this crazy world that we live in? So drop me a line on the Facebook group. You can find my social media links at milehighradio.com/go-the-distance. And remember, go the distance, because life doesn't stand still.